Thank you so much, Jeff and Melanie, for joining me today. How are you two doing?
Great.
Good. Yeah.
Still have energy.
Still have energy. A few more hours of rehearsal today, so we're gonna save as much as we can and keep it going.
Yeah, we were just kind of talking about this. You're in the middle of your day 2 of rehearsal for hair.
Yeah.
How's that going?
It's funny to be a third of the way through rehearsals and it's only day 2.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely fast paced. It's the weekend. The first weekend is long. It's 8 hours each Saturday and Sunday, and then we go to evening rehearsals 6 to 10, so 4 hours every night.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have a show on Friday.
I mean, that's such a different pace, I'm sure, than other shows that you've been in, where you're in rehearsal for months and months and months before you go live.
Wildly so. Yeah, I know that Melanie did it last year, but it's my first experience in something that quick. I think one of the fun / challenging bits, I come in with very little knowledge of the show. It's not one that I have known very well. So the short time is fun, but also requires me to put down a lot of my perfection. I know like a lot of us or some of us will have books, with us on stage, which is very atypical, of shows. So I'm trying to become okay with the mess and the fun of the show and the chaos of it. Where I usually like to be so studied. So it's a fun challenge in that way, just to have fun. And, like we say, it's like, we're having fun. We're doing a show. Doesn't have to be rocket science.
Although it is a pretty heavy show compared to last year's show.
Sure.
Applause last year. We didn't know what to expect last year. Last year, Joe Bailey just put out like a Facebook something like, anyone want to do some experimental theater? And I don't know, about 15 of us, I guess, showed up. I went to school with Joe Bailey at Oakland University. So I was like, well, I have a full-time career that keeps me pretty busy, and I can find 8 days, right? Like I can set my schedule so that I can do 8 days. I can't usually do shows, but, and then we just had fun, as you saw, right? This one, we've done a lot of bonding as a cast,
A lot of time on the first
it's
day.
heavy. It's a heavy topic. A lot of us have attachments to Vietnam and to the storyline. My mom was a protester. My dad is a Vietnam vet. So, I would say this is a heavier show, and the music is much more technical. So we haven't done any blocking. We've just been assigned some solos and quartets and duets that we're working through, but it's a tremendous, it's an experiment.
It's an experiment. It's interesting to be doing something, not being fully aware of what it's going to look like at the end. I feel like when you have months, you kind of know what you're going to put out at the end of your rehearsals. 3/4 of the way through, you have it on its legs, and then it's just like getting to chew on it. Where this one is just like, I think we'll find out Friday what it looks like.
The best performance to see is Monday night.
Yeah, we've had a few
because we've had a few more, but it's sold out. Actually,
yeah.
And we
Sunday almost.
Sunday is, I think one ticket left up for Sunday. So.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
So many people excited about it in such an odd format. Yeah.
I think what is exciting about the Ringwald Reprise is just this like idea, Melanie, you kind of mentioned that like last year you did Applause, and that was, again, not a show that many people are probably familiar with. And the same with Hair, because I have to admit, I've never seen Hair. I didn't even know what it was before I started kind of trying to make questions to talk to the two of you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's cool to kind of revisit some of these things.
Yeah. When I told my friends I was doing Hair, they were, Hairspray? So there was a lot of that.
Not quite, right?
Yeah, not quite. So I agree with you there.
It's a really intergenerational. So I'm 54. I don't know how old you are. But
I'll be 35, but I think the youngest
is 22.
Just turned 21.
Oh, 21.
Recently.
Yeah. So it's very intergenerational, which I think has been interesting too. For again, the perspective. My parents. I was the baby born in 1971. This show was 1968. My dad went over in 69, and I felt the effects my whole life of growing up as a Vietnam vet's kid, right? We have some people in the cast who've been in 4 or 5 productions of Hair, like
some veterans that are just
let's
do it again.
They just love Hair, so they do a lot of them together. So that's been maybe helps us a little bit, right? Because they know the flow of the show. But yeah,
sure.
I'm already thinking about next summer. I would do every show that Joe Bailey does if it was 8 days.
Yeah, and we bonded over that the first time we spoke, because I work a pretty typical 9 to 5, and while I love doing theater, I usually can't give 2 months, of time without planning it out. And this was very much Joe just calling me and saying, hey, what do you got going on in the summer? I said, it depends. And so he showed me 10 days. I'm like, yeah, I have 10 days. If it would have been more weeks, I'll be out of the country doing other things with work. But it's fun to be able to kind of get your shot of live theater and performance in a small format like this at the Ringwald.
And not have to be perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, getting rid of that perfectionism part of it's probably very difficult to kind of like pull it on the wall and just be like, okay, we're going to do this live no matter what happens.
Yeah.
And we may not know the material as well as maybe we want to.
Yeah. And I'll say it's my first, I've done a few, 2-3 musicals over the time I've been acting. And this is my first lead role, or at least ever having a solo. And I got 5 of them.
Really?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. So,
I didn't know that.
Added on top of that is like, being somebody I want to be on top of everything and be able to lead the tribe well and the songs we have. So yeah, it's a really fun trust experience. And
yes,
I think that's been, if you're in the room, I think that's been one of the biggest topics, is just doing your best and like bringing what you have, and everybody, like, it's not a one-man show.
Right.
There's an entire tribe of people that are carrying everything, carrying the energy and the topics.
I think the tribe concept, which is a big part of Hair, is the tribe. That's what they're called. We do have 3 leads who have more solos
named characters.
Named characters, but they've broken it up. And Rachel Rose is our music director from Wayne State. She's absolutely tremendous.
Yeah.
Has brought out new parts of me from last year and then this year. But just the reminder that this is fun and that this is a moment in time that Hair's message maybe resonates more than if we'd done it, last year.
Again,
frankly.
Yeah.
Sure.
So what is Hair about? Because, again, I don't really know what it is, and I'm kind of assuming that maybe there's quite a few people that don't know what Hair's kind of about. So what's that story?
You want to tell it?
I'll try. You might be more familiar.
I'll fill in.
Okay.
He looked very questioning of himself for a moment there.
Because I said, feel free to edit me out. I'm still really like digging in and learning a lot about the show. But generally speaking, it's a group of friends with Claude, Berger, Sheila as the main 3 characters, but then a tribe of people who kind of like live communally with like free and open love towards one another, going through the experience of seeing their country send off so many children functionally to war, and the intersectional impact of that, what it looks like to turn away from what your government is doing and what that looks like, and kind of the vitriol that you can get from that, but then also what it means to go off and take part in a war that you are seeing on TV as being so brutally violent and damaging. And what is it like to be somebody in a space that has love for people and the world while being drafted, and the difficulty of choice between, it sits in that middle ground.
Yeah, you did a very good job. But it's very, I can't help but see my father in this story, because he was a middle-class guy. He went to college right after high school, but wasn't particularly driven to it, just did it because it kept him out of the draft. And, that's what Claude is facing, right? I don't know if he's been drafted. Oh, he has been drafted.
Yeah,
right?
in the story, all the men in this tribe receive draft cards, are drafted, and it's what will they do? What decisions will they make? Will they go and fight? Will they serve, or will they choose to, basically put themselves under the sights of the government, and possible punishment for not going in for their draft call?
And maybe creating a new society would be a term I would use, right? Because that's where the hippie movement really took off, of course, and in many ways was its own society and own community nationally, right? Like, California hippies and Boston hippies were driven by the same message and the same beliefs system. So that's it. And a lot of singing and dancing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of love, a lot of consternation, a lot of sort of sarcasm and sassiness to the government.
And also talking about the influence of consciousness expansion through different drugs and psychedelics and sex and nudity
and freedom.
And freedom more as expression and learning and openness versus something to be demonized or criticized or punished. So two very like warring ideologies of the way people see the world.
Normalize love.
It's interesting because you're right, Melanie. This is kind of become timely again. We're back at a moment where a lot of this stuff is coming to a head in very similar ways.
Yeah, I think I don't think I'm speaking out of turn. Tell me if I am, but I would say everyone in the room is really disturbed and frustrated and angry about where we are in the country right now. Helpless, a little bit of helplessness. And I keep saying, they're probably tired of hearing it, but for me, joy is resistance. And we know art is resistance and community is resistance. These are, I was a peacekeeper, so I literally have seen this in my career. And those are things not to forget in this moment in time. If you are on the side that is frustrated and scared and feeling helpless, is there, you can resist in a lot of ways. And so that's maybe what a lot of us have chosen to do here.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts in this space. As somebody who tries to be very aware politically and whatnot, but also, gosh, how to express. Yeah, I mean, with the genocide in Gaza, and even protesting domestically, where some protesters are like, our free speech is gradually being taken away by the actual government administration, facing similar challenges of how much what can I do, how much can I protest, how much can I push back against this government, but also I think for me, I've been very lucky. I love how diverse our cast is. Racially, age-wise, gender orientation, name it. And I experience in my friend groups, I'm very lucky to, be decently, I don't know what middle class we talk about. I have enough, right, to get by. I don't have worries, especially as like a straight white dude. But I know so many of my friends are directly impacted by this current administration. So trying to figure out, like, I'm sitting on a side of relative safety for now, but want to be impacting the world to help myself, my friends, and everybody who deserves this care. I don't know how to express it well, but it's a similar point where you're kind of on the fence. A lot of my friends work in tech. So it's like, how do you work for Amazon to make your money, but then also go and protest on the weekends? Which
is kind of similar to the main problem here, right? Like, how do you stay a part of your family, right? Because families were not generally supportive of the hippie movement, right? How do you remain an American? How do you even define American, right? Yeah, I mean, truly, Brian, we could go on. I think I don't think it's a mistake that this play was chosen, or this musical was chosen to do this year.
Yeah, and she mentioned, I'll finish with that. We've had a conversation earlier today about what does it, mean to be an American, and the difference between standing behind America no matter what she does versus being an American by calling and demanding that America be doing the right thing, what we think is kind and just in the world. And to protest, often meaning to be labeled as un-American or anti-America, when in reality it's a fight to make it as beautiful and strong as it can be,
as we know it can be,
be, right? People do not need to be suffering at this level. It is within our control, and it's difficult to sit with the dichotomy right now.
And if it's not, then we sing
And dance.
Because that's always what makes people feel lighter and more free, And this sounds like such a musical that I would totally expect from both the Ringwald and from Joe Bailey, who balances art with activism, which
exactly
in this time, those are kind of sometimes mutually exclusive,
Yeah, that's a lovely thing to have said. I've known him, like I said, since our 20s. And I'm super proud that he does what he does, and it doesn't surprise me at all. And also personally, just such a thrill to get to work with him. I was texting some friends from college. I was like, I'm doing a show with Joe Bailey. And they're like, oh my God, say hi. Like the fact that we can still be connected is pretty lovely, and I would follow him pretty much anywhere.
That's high praise though too, because it means that not only is it a pleasure to work with him, but it just also speaks to the volume in which he isn't afraid to use his voice
Yes,
here at the
very
Ringwald.
much.
So Jeff, you're playing Claude.
Yes.
So who exactly is Claude within this narrative to you?
Oh man,
I know we've talked about a lot of themes here, and I know they probably all intersect with him,
okay.
but like I'm just kind of wondering.
It definitely intersects. And one of the part it intersects with is like I don't have this as fleshed out as I think I usually would in a multi-month process, right?
Sure.
So I'm kind of learning
We're
him
getting
as we
there
go.
today, though. I noticed.
We're getting there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're getting there. From I've had a similar trajectory, I suppose, in my life, going from, pretty safe and normal white suburbia, and then finding out how stifling and then, being in a church environment, and that doesn't necessarily need to be a church, it can be any environment that kind of imposes a certain, I don't know, set of structure or rules around how you act or,
Sure.
in any kind of way. And it took until my late 20s to start shedding a lot of what that put on and figuring out like who I am and how much love I have to give myself, my friends around me. I'm experimenting with like different drugs, and just like what does life look like living without all of the shackles that were put on us that we didn't necessarily consent to, or didn't know were being placed on. So coming back to Claude, I think Claude is in an era where he has found that community where he sees himself and is able to be a part of it. He can be silly and big and charming and a main character with 20 other people that he loves and lives with and is around. But when it comes to receiving his draft card and his family background, really just doesn't know how to handle that. So yeah, for me, I think it's very relatable in that he's probably somebody that is generally safe, but also now kind of has to make a choice if he's going to go along with something that he specifically finds awful, or choose against it when there are consequences to both. And I think honestly, that was something I didn't know until you had mentioned it, that it wasn't necessarily easy to just say no to the war effort if I didn't like it, just no, or vice versa. There's consequences on both sides of how your friends and family might view you if you went to war. So there really was no easy choice there,
And there never is when it comes to something as heavy as this. Not even in this instance, but like you said, even today, like there's times where you are going against what you were raised and against what your family believes, and that takes a lot of what's the word I'm looking for?
Courage.
Yeah, there you go. I don't know why I couldn't think of that word.
Yeah,
It takes a lot of courage to do that.
Yeah, and the consequences can be small and large, like we mentioned, whether it's losing friends or family or being ostracized from some of the systems that you grew up with, all the way towards people being placed in jail for speaking up, and especially for communities of immigrants or anybody who's not just a white American. We see that today with even Congress people being arrested for just doing their job and speaking up for their constituents, and especially in communities of color, is so much significantly. You can be arrested for speaking Spanish because somebody might think you're an illegal immigrant just because you're bilingual, which
immigrants, humans can't be illegal.
I think sorry. Thank you for yes.
It's all right. I work in immigration.
And you're right though that like humans can't be illegal.
Yeah.
And yet here we are. We live in a society that is 56% of the population voted that was okay. And so I do agree that like that's again all of this. You're exploring the story, but also we're walking back out into a world that's reflective of the same story that you're kind of living. 50 years later.
One of the things I say there's some members. You saw more of it. Obviously, I saw none of Vietnam. But talking about that, it was like one of the first televised conflicts. And I think about our generations now, where not only are things so televised, but you're able to create narratives that don't exist
Mm-hmm.
and and disinformation on the fact and obfuscate so much of the horrors that are going on. I don't know. It's difficult. You can go on Reddit, Instagram, and oh gosh, like it's a weird time when you can wake up in the morning and go onto a piece of social media and see a child that has starved.
Yeah.
That could have that for no reason, right? Other than violence and greed, and know that your country played a part in it. Like what world?
Sure.
Well, there are moments where, and I wonder sometimes in my day, getting ready or something, and I do work in government, uh, so I have a very different perspective as well.
Sure.
Having to work within a system that I don't
Sure.
think is functioning very well, and feel a little betrayed by in my career because it isn't what it was when I was growing up, which is why I got into this work, right? But I wonder if you just think of the characters in particular, if there were times that they felt like I do when I look in the mirror and go, have I lost my mind? Am I the only one having this experience? Because it feels like it should be an easy and simple change. So has my mind the problem?
Mhm.
And to an extent, I think that they did, if I speak with my mother, some of the conversation of it was hard to believe that your country was lying to you. They know, and that their innocence was really broken. And these veterans who came back missed huge chunks of their lives, right? And that generational trauma that Vietnam left. And I would argue not just on the men and women who served in Vietnam, but their families, their future children, and the country as a whole has a giant scar through it because they learned they couldn't trust their government. And I just, I definitely take this to another level because of my role and probably my age. But I think about that as I watch these young people in the tribe, thinking about, they haven't quite figured out that the government has totally lied to them yet. They will figure that out by the end of the war, of course.
I was going to say you have a very interesting perspective, I'm sure, because, I'm a psychologist during my day job. And so I've worked with people who've been in Vietnam, who, families who have been on the other side. And it was never the same, the people that were in it, but also the people living through it from a family perspective, they were never the same. So to bring that, like you have a personal perspective to bring into here of being the child of somebody who was in that war, and that has to, I use the word re-traumatize, but kind of like it's like you're reviewing this through a new lens, and that has to add another layer to it.
Yeah, I sobbed yesterday. During our bonding, I just wanted to share a little bit of what understanding of the generational trauma of Vietnam, and I didn't know I had all those tears inside of me. Actually, I mean, I just didn't, and they just flowed like crazy. I think my mom might struggle a little bit when she comes to see the show. I think it will be very personal for her. And he's going to be wearing my father's uniform from Vietnam as a costume. And I cried when he put it on yesterday to see if it fit. But I know my mother, that will make her cry, right? Because my dad did lose a big chunk of his life along with other veterans.
Sure.
I'm not singling him out
Sure.
in my experience. And then, there's physical things too. Then there's the emotion of not understanding you had PTSD until you're 75 years old, right? Like that's what you probably experienced, as you just said, right? He calls it his anger issues, by the way, not PTSD, but that is what it is. And,
Yes.
and they didn't get the benefits that they deserve. They've had to fight for those. They have to pay attorneys to get those now. Yeah, it's a long generational path from the Central Park where this is taking place, basically to today.
And then spoken very anonymously, just through her sharing. Like today, we learned other members of the cast spoke with their families and realized how much their childhoods were impacted by their grandparents. So that
was pretty beautiful, actually. Like several of the much younger cast members had gone home and apparently talked to family and found out, oh my gosh, my grandfather was in Vietnam, or my uncle, and I just didn't know. They just didn't even know.
Or somebody who's widowed, and that's why, that's why one of their grandparents is the way they are, or, had to be.
She was widowed at 26, and
Yeah.
so she had to find a strength that most 26-year-olds didn't have to have, right? And so
Yeah,
she
for
lives
sure.
today because of that.
They're finding out that a lot of their childhoods or the way that they are is because of a trauma that their grandparents.
Yeah, that was pretty beautiful.
Generational trauma. I mean, like, and we don't think about those things as like why, we always made sure growing up, we always had more peanut butter than we ever needed. But, having my mom's grandparents live through Great Depression and her father being in World War II, like there was things that you held on to.
Yeah.
And there was things that, like, when you look at it, you're like, there's reasons why all this stuff happens, but we're not looking at it because you didn't talk about it back then either. You just kind of survived.
Right. Exactly.
Melanie, so you are a part of the tribe. So kind of what is the tribe, like, how would you describe the tribe and how it factors into the narrative of Hair?
Tribe is love, man. The tribe is
No, you're going to be better at this. Yeah, go for it.
the tribe is love. It's again, they've built a community for themselves out of nothing. Other than a belief that things should be different. It's about beauty. It's about love. It's about expression. It's about kindness. It's about pretty much anything goes. Stay out of my business, but we're going to support you. That kind of a concept. Yeah, it's quite beautiful.
It's in stark contrast to the individualism that I think many or most of us grew up just kind of knowing. Talk about like nuclear family and whatnot, and especially like capitalism, consumerism. I always laugh. How many lawn mowers does my block at home need? How many do we all need? Probably 2, maybe 3. But how many do we have? Every single house has one, because we all are like trying to make sure that we can handle our own needs, where the tribe needs are met by the community.
It's a very American way of functioning. This, we're not a collectivist nation, right? No. And I have the privilege and absolute wonderful experience of working with so many immigrant communities here in Southeast Michigan. Much more collectivist, right? One of them may purchase a car and everybody pays $5 a week, and that person helps get everybody else to work because they can't all afford a car straight away. They may build a garden. You do see community gardens a lot more these days, which I think has become a little more collectivist approach to things, but it is pretty, you really have to seek out collectivism in America, I think, when it comes to at least the white Anglo-Saxon Protestant type people like I was raised.
For sure. I mean, it really is, everybody's kind of fending for themselves, or like your little tiny unit, but it sounds like
the tribe is chosen family.
Yeah,
the term
today,
chosen family.
More of today's speak. Yeah,
yeah. It's they've chosen each other because the families around them either don't want them around, or they feel completely disconnected from them, and they're very sincere in, like, anyone's welcome, right? So Claude just arrives there. They didn't know Claude prior to his arrival there, and
from Manchester.
He's
from Flushing.
Yeah, he's not. But he just sort of falls in with them, and they really are very sincere in that they don't want his spirit, his soul, his person to be destroyed by going and serving in this war, right? So they're basically, the tribe is trying to convince him not to. They want him to burn his draft card, and then
stick with the love.
His inner monologue is very much, but this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
So going to the Ringwald Reprise, this is such an interesting, we kind of talked a little bit about it, but it's such an interesting experience, I'm sure, as an actor. We only have 6 rehearsals before you're going on to perform. Melanie, you had mentioned that this is your second year doing this. So is there anything specific that you've brought over from that first year of like how you're preparing or handling such an experience such as this?
Well, I did think through my costume sooner than I did last year.
Okay.
Once we knew we were doing this, because we put together our own costumes, which for Hair is fairly simple. We've got a few hippies in the crowd, actually.
For
so
sure.
They've brought in some of their gear for everybody to share. But, I listened to the show for the last few weeks more closely. I rewatched the movie. There's a film. I don't know if you know that, but there's a film with Treat Williams.
Okay.
He's fabulous.
It
By the way,
diverges a little bit from the.
it does diverge a little bit, but it is a good movie. No, there's not much. I think what I brought over isn't in preparation as much as it is. It is a fun adventure, right? We've talked some really serious concepts here, but at the end of the day, we're probably doing it, most of us, because of content, but also just we love to perform. And the idea of experimental, I mean, this is a really unique concept.
Yeah.
This is a big show.
Yeah.
There's 20, 50, I don't know.
I think there's 22 people in the tribe.
And like 49 songs or something.
Joe just said today, he's like, I didn't realize until after I picked it and you guys started doing it, how much music there is.
Yeah. And like 7-part harmonies and, but I would say we're killing it. Especially we've been listening to them rehearsing while we've been on with you. You can hear them in the background. And I was like, oh, we do sound good.
It's just so good. And I think for so many of us, just being in a room, hearing the sound and feeling everybody's energy, and that's what we're here for.
So there's one other cast member who was in this show last year, Justin, and both of us keep repeating, this is not meant to be perfect. It is experimental theater, and you're going to be surprised at how well it turns out. And I'm glad that you saw last year, so it's very, then you get into some improv, right, during the shows when the phone is not out on stage when it's supposed to be. I mean, Joe Bailey is a phenomenal improv actor, so that's fabulous. But I think this year it feels like more people know the songs than New Applause, and that will be helpful. I think we're not going to have to rely on our scripts as much for the music as we did last year, but we're still going to be on book. Most of us will still be on book come Friday.
We haven't even talked about dialogue.
We haven't blocked. We've done nothing. And I know for you all, you're like, this is not going to happen. But I'm telling you, you'll be surprised how it does. It just really starts to happen.
It's finding out what in your brain is important to figure out, and then letting the rest be.
It's like writing a short story instead of a novel, right? Like there's a lot of skill that goes into a short story because you're trying to limit your words. And so, do I need to say all of that, or could I just say the blue Dairy Fresh milk crate? And does that paint the picture that I need, as opposed to?
Well, and then somebody else next to you will have the phrase that you don't know as well.
That's right.
And I think that's part of the beauty.
That is very true. Here. I'm singing a soprano too, which I've never done before. I'm usually a first soprano, and I am just all over the place right now. So you got to trust it.
It's all going to come together. I mean, I have to say that I think that, granted, I always have a lot of fun with the Ringwald in their shows, but I think that Applause was one of the most hilarious experiences. There was just such an energy to it, where you're even watching people, last year you're watching people on stage that even if they were to mess up, fumble a line, they would laugh with themselves, and there was a bigger community aspect to it. It was absolutely, as soon as I saw they're doing another round, I was like, this is very exciting to see that this is coming back, because it was different. You don't see something like this happen very often.
No, well, and the fact last year there were I don't know, these numbers might be wrong, but the ratio is, I think, right. 15 people who wanted to do the show. We sort of showed up on a Saturday, and we figured out roles as we went. This year, I think there were over 40 people who were interested, and they kept more than they had intended to keep, actually.
It's supposed to be 18 or 20, and then it 22. Just kept kind of getting pushed.
More people wanted to try to push themselves. And I feel like this has to challenge you as a performer.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
I feel like my dimples are hurting from smiling so much, but it is the most fun I've ever had as a performer in my life.
That's awesome. Then one final question for both of you before I let you go is just, what messages or themes from the show resonate the most with you?
Oh, goodness.
Sounds like there's so many. There's so many different ones here, but what has to speak the most to you?
Well, I'm in the last third of my career. I'm 54, so thinking through where I'm heading, what I want to do, and I have realized how little government is not very creative. And thinking through, how do I want to live the rest of my life? And I don't have enough love in it, and intentional love, right? I have loved ones, but so I'm finding ways to seek that out, and I am looking at the creative aspect for me, building that in. And I moved to a lake to do that last year. I moved up into Pontiac on a lake. So the idea of nature, the idea of the beauty, like I would say that for me, because in my work, I do the resistance stuff anyway. That's just part of what I do. So for me, that isn't it. It's the love part. It's the even loving myself part, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Which is hard sometimes to find the love
It is.
for ourselves starting
It
there.
is.
Like a real psychologist right there.
I gotta work it in sometimes.
No, I get it. I think for me, it might sound cliche using the word, but it's the importance of finding your tribe. And I've experienced that, like I mentioned, through life. But it's finding people that will love you, support you, are going in a similar direction as you, see who you are, and want to continue to feed into that. And makes me think of the friends I've made here in Detroit that feel more like home. And we're going to protests together. We're going to dinner together. We're going out and dancing together. It's doing parts of life together as a community. We were talking about the individualism and whatnot, and not having to be so perfect yourself when you have a group of people around you, a tribe around you that can love on you when you don't have it, and that you can love on when they don't have
when you don't have it. That's
exactly.
a good way to put it.
And that, there's a place where everybody can come for whether they're experiencing great achievements or despairing loss. There's a place, and I think that gets harder, I'm sure across the board, but especially I feel like a generation like moving into our 30s, community just isn't as prevalent around. So finding your tribe, others who think like you and want the same world as you, and then loving each other and bringing about that part of the world that you want to see.
And now you've got a new tribe.
Another one.
I think that's also very reflective of not only the Ringwald Theatre, but also where it's housed, Affirmations, where we coming together as in a time when we all need to be unified and to have community.
Rachel, our music director, speaks of brave spaces. This is a brave space.
As opposed to safe space.
Right.
Because not any place can be perfectly safe. There's always going to be something that's
and hard. we give each other that bravery, right? And the courage to be brave. And I think Affirmations is also that, right? It's a brave space in a lot of ways, not just a safe space.
And I think that you're really going to feel that when people come to see Hair this weekend. Like, it's coming up really quickly.
It'll be here.
And they're I mean, as you spoke about nudity as well, like that's a part of the
it'll be there
play, and it's an option for us, and we're all still deciding what we're doing. But the audience, if they don't know that, that's going to be an interesting. That's going to be interesting for them too, and it's a really. I happen to be of the mind that it's very important to the storyline. Not that I'm not judging anyone who chooses not to do it, but
sure.
There's a real that
uncovering, revealing, shedding
of yourself. And in this moment, maybe we all need a little of that.
Right. The vulnerability of that too. I couldn't imagine being an actor on stage and having to shed my skin that way.
It's vulnerable, it's beautiful, it's awkward, makes people reflect on, because people have different responses to nudity, and I think everybody's responses can be pretty insightful into themselves as how they view their own body, or it just gives everybody an opportunity to reflect on our humanity together.
And the message of vulnerability, which again, Affirmations is a place where people can be who they are
themselves,
and in this very brave space, they can find that vulnerability, which many times people who have to be strong, hide that vulnerability away. And I think I always loved Affirmations for that reason.
And also just think about, when you strip that away, it also shows that we're all exactly the same. At the end of the day, we're all human. Like you said, humanity isn't illegal. So
exactly.
Oh, I love that. You use my words back at me.
Look at him go.
There's the therapist again. But thank you so much, Jeff and Melanie, for being here today. I really appreciate you taking time. I know you got to get back to rehearsal as well. So
you gave us a good vocal break. Other than us, talking.
No, it's great. And we bonded.
We bonded.
It was lovely. Thanks, Brian.
It's great that 2 days are almost sold out already. I'm really excited for for people to be here and get to experience it together with us. Because like you said, we'll all find out together what this show is going to be.
So Friday and Saturday night, still tickets available.
Yep.
Saturday in particular, I think
Yep.
we've said we have the most seats
Sunday,
available.
Monday.
Sunday, Monday are gone.
Already full.
So perfect. So the Ringwald Reprise of Hair opens Friday and runs through August 11th. However, the 10th and 11th are already sold out. So get your tickets now for the first 2 days, and we'll see you there.
Yeah.
Perfect. See you there.
Thank you. Peace.